Welcome back to Heroes of Light and Shadow, where we begin the final series of chapters in the game, starting with Chapter 21, My Worst Nightmare. Yes, they are back. They're back. They're back. Now, I do kind of like the artwork here, but I think it looks a little bit too bright and happy, considering, one, the mood of what's happening in the story right now, and two, the music playing here, which is one of the most dark and somber pieces in the whole game, though I really, really like it. I will talk more about this musical theme later, because this actually isn't just and chapter opening theme, but you'll see. Oh, and no opening dialogue here either. Okay, that's interesting. Anyway, let's check out the map here. I also think this map looks a little bit too bright and happy. They could have made it. They could have given it a little bit of an atmospheric effect, in my opinion. But anyway, like I said, Swordmasters, Berserkers, and Sorcerers. Like I said in the last chapter, those are pretty much the only human opponents you'll be seeing from here on, all Force Thieves. Speaking of non-human enemies, though, yep, guess what's back? Yep, we're entering the Wyverns' homeland now. And yeah, that is not going to be good. Fortunately, there's no boss Wyvern. The boss here is just a generic sorcerer, but with the Glow tome again. Yeah, Glow can get kind of annoying. There's also a whole bunch of guys with Meteor tomes, so you want to watch out for them. And that village right there, see that village there? That village is possibly the most important village in the entire game. Anyway, let's check out Hazard 1, but I'll talk a bit later about that village. That village is extremely important, and you want to make sure none of those thieves reach that village. Now, interestingly enough, Daros just got a friendship with Mary Sue, and as you'll see later, that caused something kind of interesting. Oh, and there we just got the Speed Staff. That's a kind of interesting staff. It's kind of like the Speed Potion, but it's a staff, so it's kind of like there are other stat equivalents of the Barrier Staff, in a way, in this game. I'll talk about that later, because as you can see here, Daros's increased friendship with Mary Sue has resulted in him actually getting a support conversation. So I didn't expect this, so I didn't really know what to think about that, but anyway. Apparently, a young Draconite, badly wounded and on the verge of death, is in this village. Wonder who he is. Who could he be? Oh, well, he must be someone who, you know, who's good at not dying. Or who's good at coming back from the verge of death. Anyway, we've got to get to this village because clearly Marth wants, the guy is asking for Marth, so, I mean, if he's dying, that ought to be really important. Now, yes, this village is incredibly important, for two reasons. One that's probably more significant than the other, but it's also, this village also houses one of the most significant changes, in this game compared to the original Mystery of the Emblem, and I'll talk about that when we get to it, but it's the other reason that you really want to watch out, because if you miss this village with Marth, beating the final boss will be a lot harder. So, yeah, it contains something very, very, very important if you want to beat the final boss. So, yeah, you need to visit it. Anyway, so we've got that, and we have Daros and Mary Sue 1, which I didn't expect to get. So anyway, Daros, he be talking like a pirate. Yeah. So, I guess, they've done a good job of keeping this from Shadow Dragon, props to the, localizers for actually finding, for actually, you know, having someone who speaks pirate on them. Nothing much else to say about this, apart from the fact that he's swabbing the decks and doing piratey stuff, matey, so, sorry. It's fun to do that voice, so... Anyway, there's actually not much else I can say about this conversation, and since I'm probably not going to get his other two supports in this playthrough, you won't be seeing much of his character, really. But, speaking of characters, yes, using Katarina in the last chapter, yeah, her support with my unit raises very, very quickly. But given that they spent all their days training as knights together, I guess that kind of makes sense. Technically speaking, she's been with us for the whole prologue, so I guess those sort of count. So anyway, it only takes one chapter after you recruit her for her to get one support with my unit. So anyway, it looks like for this one, it's Katarina at your service. She's, for some reason, yeah, because she owes us, she's going to be doing, anything we want. I don't see that ending well. Yes, anything apparently. um, but yeah, I guess she's only just started thinking for herself and not following orders, so I guess she's not used to this whole free thinking stuff, so kind of interesting there, but sadly I don't think I'll be getting Katarina's other supports in this playthrough, but, well, I might be showing them off later because there's a certain item. I'll use this item next chapter, except I probably really should have in this one because, yeah, there's a few things. But I'll talk about this item later. Anyway, wow, look at all those max stats. Yeah, Mary Sue, thou art broken. Right then. I think I'm going to reclass Mary Sue again. Now, I just checked through all these classes, and if you look particularly in general, whoa boy, look at that. Yep. Maxed everything except magic, luck, and resistance. That is pretty insane. Yeah, max strength, skill, speed, and defense. Wow. Yeah, that shows her defense is actually pretty damn high, given that she's maxing it out of the general. And wow, she's still got 6 whole levels to go. I dread to think how broken she's going to be at the end of the game. But I decided to make her a sniper. You know, the better to brutally murder Wyverns because they deserve it. Oh boy, do they deserve it. I also thought I might as well take out some of these Gordon's bows, because, you know, I might as well use them at this point. They're generally best forged. In my first playthrough, I managed to get Kleiner's bow out of House F1, and I forged that. That has a ridiculous crit rate, so yeah, that is pretty awesome. And the Brave bow is on Ryan here, so hopefully you'll get to see what that does. Yeah, the Brave weapons don't come until pretty late in this game, but at least, you know, unlike Shadow Dragon, where you don't get them at all unless you use an online shop. Right then. Yeah, I can take a killer bow now, which is pretty awesome. Not that he needs the extra power. And Sirius is doing fairly well in the stat department, but I probably don't want to use the Gradimus at this point. You know, I don't want to waste that thing. Of course, in the original Mystery of the Emblem, this is pretty much the last chapter you had to use the Gradimus, because every chapter after this is indoors, and of course the only ones you can use it indoors were Draug and Shima, and in that game they both sucked. So, yeah, that... It wasn't so much a matter of them sucking, although Draug was pretty bad and Shima was pretty underleveled, but the fact that the general class was horrible in that game. Again, it's mostly because every other class could reach 20 defense, so what's the point of having a class with lower speed and movement if their defense cap isn't any higher? Generals aren't actually that good in this game either, for reasons I've already explained, but still. Now, we probably need to break out the Worm Slayers again. Although, you might not need them as much in this chapter, because Wyverns are also weak to bows and wind magic, like Elwyn's Excalibur and Shaver, as I've got it there. Because Wyverns are also weak to those things, you probably don't need to use Worm Slayers as much. I would recommend you save the Dragon Slayer weapons for the next chapter, because then we'll encounter a different breed of dragon, one we haven't actually seen yet, and one that is probably the second worst after Wyverns. Anyway, let's go and, yeah, she can use hammers now and poleaxes, but given that I don't think any generals or paladins will be appearing at all, for the rest of the whole game, I don't think, they're going to be too useful. But I may as well give Bast the Brave Axe. The icon for the Brave Axe was really familiar for some reason. I don't know, was it in one of the other games, or was it in the SNES games, FE4 or 5, I don't know, the icon just looks really familiar to me for some reason. Speaking of which, I probably haven't said this, but most of the weapon icons in this game are actually directly based off the weapon icons from the original Mystery of the Emblem. You can tell this mostly from the Killing Edge. The Killing Edge, yeah, looks almost exactly the same in its weapon icon. Of course, in the original Mystery of the Emblem, weapons had unique sprites in battle. That's something I also haven't mentioned. They don't in this game, which is kind of weird, but Awakening brings that back, so that was sort of interesting. Because, yeah, in the original Mystery of the Emblem, for example, if Marth was using a rapier, his weapon would actually look like a rapier. Whereas if he was using the silver sword, it would look like the silver sword. So yeah, that game had the, you know, unique weapon sprites in battle. Anyway, though, you might notice I'm bringing Minerva here. I'm also going to bring the VIP card and silver card because there's a secret shop here, and that's the last one, so you'll want to see this secret shop. Anyway, there's a good reason I'm bringing Minerva in this chapter. And it's kinda hard to figure out from that mystery Draco Knight conversation that it will relate to her, but, well, just think about it like this. Most of the Draco Knights come from Macedon. Minerva's the princess of Macedon, so you might want to bring her. Not spoiling anything, but yeah, you're gonna want to bring her in this chapter. Yes, because you're gonna need her. It actually won't hurt to get her trained up a little bit. I probably won't be, but I mean, because you're going to need to bring her for the final chapter anyway, it won't hurt to get her trained up a little bit here. I wanted to bring the speed staff just to show it off a bit, but it turned out I never actually got to use it in this chapter, but I guess you might end up seeing it later, I don't know. Speaking of speed, Elwyn's maxed his speed, and the speed cap for magic classes is once again disappointingly low. It usually is, except in FE4 when, you know, Levin and Seti completely broke the game with their 30 speed cap combined with a plus 20, giving them 50 speed. Yeah, that was ridiculous. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of Wyverns on the mountain there, and so we want our snipers to be towards the front, because we're going to need to snipe some Wyverns soon. Also, Minerva's going to she's going to want to be reasonably far forward, because she's going to need to make a mad dash for the village. There's actually a time limit for getting to that village, well, sort of, but it probably won't have any effect. I actually finished the whole chapter long before the time limit ran out, so it's not really much of a problem, but just be warned that it might be if you take too long. Right then, let the pain begin. And we get ominous lack of music here. So we're now on the border between Macedon and Doluna. This is apparently where Macedon's Draco Knights actually get their mounts, and that's something I want to talk about once we actually get to the chapter. And, well, it's full of Wyverns and Barbarians. And like Mary Sue says, it's like, no, please don't say it's worse than Anri's way. Oh, God, no. Oh, I don't want to have to go through that again. Wyverns, ah! Please tell me there are no reinforcement Wyverns in this chapter, that would be even worse. But, to that suspicious blank spot above Marth, a character has now come to enter that spot. And Mary Sue thinks this guy is an enemy and is ready to attack him. But anyway, this is Ymir, a character who appeared in the previous game. But of course, he was the last of these side quest characters that required you to kill off and, you know, massacre pretty much your whole army. So most people probably haven't heard of him. Well, most people who play well, that is. So yeah, I'm going to actually cut to his character introduction, like, almost immediately after this, because I don't want to ruin the music of that plays when we start this chapter. So I'm going to go into Ymir's introduction, starting now. So here we have Ymir. Ymir is, well, this is going to be pretty brief, because there's not much I can say about him. He joined really, really late in the game, with pretty bad bases. I mean, 20 strength is actually not bad, considering, you know, pre-promote bases for most of the game, you know. But it is abysmal for a level 10 warrior. I mean, a level 1 warrior in this game should probably have more than 20 strength if you promote them from a fighter. And, well, even though he ends up, he has a pretty good shot at actually ending up with max strength. That speed, wow. That speed average really leaves something to be desired, and he's not going to be doubling or, and going to be getting doubled a lot. So, once again, just another kind of failed pre-promote, really. Again, this guy joined so late, why would you even use him? In fact, he joined so late, he doesn't even have time for 3 support conversations. No, he only gets 1. And it's incredibly generic, as you'll see next chapter. So, he doesn't get much character development either. So, yeah, he's just another, pre-promote, but even worse than the others. He doesn't even get any character development, so, yeah, there's not much I can say about him. He's pretty boring. If you want to know more about him, you should probably look up videos of that side quest back in Shadow Dragon. That one was kind of interesting, and he got to get a bit more character development back then. In this game, yeah, he's not that great. And now, we begin the player phase, and are greeted with possibly my favourite track in the entire game, known simply as Holy War, even in the original Mystery of the Emblem. It's kind of funny to make it sound like it should be an MP4 song. This track is amazing. I love this so much. So much. It is just... I'm sorry, I'm going to go on and on about how much I love this song. Yeah, this song is amazing. Some people have said, though, that the remix of it does kind of make it sound like a Super Mario Bros. Airship theme, which is kind of interesting. Speaking of the remix, they actually added a bit to this song, and you can find out about that in my Arcania Music Illusion series. Basically, they've added an extra part to this song that adds a little bit of Legend of the Divine Dragon, which again wasn't in the original Mystery of the Emblem version of this track. The Mystery of the Emblem version of this track is still good though, and I actually quite like it. This is one of the few songs in the game where I actually like both the original and the remixed version on their own merits. So I listen to both of them quite regularly. Both of them are pretty much my favourite tracks in their respective games. Yeah, anyway. Yep, so, well, we're gonna have to go near there. Now let's visit this village for a conversation I'm so glad they localized. In the original Mystery of the Emblem fan translation, that line was given possibly the most stiff, awkward translation I have ever seen in my entire life. It was translated as this. This is the Wyverns Dale. Do not go in here, otherwise you will be burned to death by wyverns. Yeah. That line almost partly makes me laugh, partly makes me cry at just how bad the translation is. I mean, it's a pretty literal translation, but it sounds really awkward in English. Well, not awkward, just really bland and just flat. So I'm so glad they localized that line. It's pretty much getting the same feeling across, but I mean, it's got, you know, actual emotion in it this time. Sorry, that line in the original Mystery, and those thieves right there. You want to do everything you can to stop them from visiting. Yeah, they're going to visit that village, but first they're going to pillage it and destroy everything. Then there won't be much of a village to visit, if you know what I mean. Anyway, though, those three thieves, yeah. At first I thought it wasn't possible to stop them without warping them after the village, but actually, I played on and I ended up actually being able to stop them. You want to rush your flyers to those thieves as fast as you can. You also want to lure these wyverns and kill them as fast as you can. Also, speaking of that earlier line there, I want to say that if this is a bad fanfiction, that line would probably sound something like, do not go into Wyverns Dale, or you will be killed by wyverns. Sorry. Another bad fanfic reference there. Anyway, speaking of killed by wyverns, why don't we get these wyverns killed by us? And another wyvern bites the dust. Yes! These wyverns really are... Magic and resistance. You're not a mage. You're a sniper now. Stop thinking you're a mage. Anyway. Now, our flyers really have to get moving, so we can stop those thieves, because that village is really important. Although, we also need to watch out for the berserkers that are up here, and also the meteor, I was going to say bishop, mage, no, meteor sorcerer. I'm wondering were those meteor guys even in the original Mystery of the Emblem, because I know that Meteor was in it. I just don't know if those guys were there. I mean, if they were there, they would have been Dark Mages and not... Oh, and there are more wyverns. So what you really don't want is one of those guys to Meteor you and then a wyvern to attack you. That's a recipe for painful death right there. The strange thing, though, about those Meteor, sorcerers is that... I was about to do it again, actually. Meteor sorcerers is that... This doesn't have a nice ring to it, that. Anyway, the Meteor guys, the strange thing about the Meteor guys is that they actually don't move. And in fact, if you look at their stats, it literally says they have 0 movement. This means they're kind of more like stationary turrets than actual enemies. That's what I like to call them anyway. So, you can kind of pick them off at close range, and you don't have to worry about them moving and then attacking you with a long-range token, because that's annoying. And wow, that's high hit chance, and if he hits me again, I'm gone. I wanted to make sure to lure these berserkers, because I want to get rid of these guys to clear the way for my flyer so they can attack the thieves. So yeah, my first step is to lure these guys forward, clear them out, then clear out the Wyverns, and then my flyers will pretty much have a free ride to the thieves. Fortunately, it will take the thieves a long time to get over those mountains, and I'm in a really long time. So you've got plenty of time to get to that village. But if your flyers are heading towards that village, Minerva should go with them. For reasons that will become obvious later, Minerva needs to get to this village, and in fact, this is the first village that you want to reach with someone other than Marv. Because you see, if you want to activate a particularly important event, Minerva needs to wait on the village before Marv visits it. So don't have Marv visit the village first. First, wait till Minerva gets there, then have Marv visit. Of course, Minerva has to visit the village before turn 15, but that's a lot of turns, and in fact, like I've said earlier, I in fact managed to complete that entire chapter long before the 15th, well, this entire chapter long before the 15th turn, so, yeah. I actually did this chapter surprisingly quickly, but anyway. Now, Sheeta should be fine from that, full-on tome. She has enough luck to avoid being critted by it, and enough resistance to avoid taking heavy damage. Those Wyverns, though, I am worried about, so again, we need to, once again, sing my favourite song, Kill the Wyverns, kill the Wyverns, kill the Wyverns. I hate Wyverns so much. They're actually, but as you'll see here, they're actually getting a little bit better. Because we're so much stronger than we used to be, it looks as though Wyverns are less of a challenge for us, and that is a very good thing. So you might notice that, yeah, Wyverns aren't as big of an annoyance as they used to be. They're still a pretty big annoyance though, especially since they can again circumnavigate all your meat shields and keep your healers from behind, like they just love to do. Anyway, gotta watch out for those devil weapons on the other side of that fort there. And, come on, 20... Oh, well, as you can see how the Brave Sword works. Yeah, basically just lets you attack up to 4 times. You know, standard Fire Emblem there. You just don't get it until quite late. But it's probably a good thing you do, considering how completely game-breaking it is. Anyway, killing this thing with her needs to look, we can even double Wyverns now, which is great. You know, back then when we were unpromoted, and our max speed was only like, you know, 20, we really had a hard time doubling Wyverns. Though we can now, which is great. And we can finally kill this guy. That's enough out of the meteors. 98, oh there we go, 100%. And use your brother's bow, or bro's bow, bro bow, whatever. Just call it whatever you want. Right then. One more Berserker, and we should be ready to get to those thieves. Again, don't worry about the thieves, it'll take them a long time to cross those mountains, so you've got plenty of time to visit the village. Anyway, it looks like I might actually call this video soon. I could have done this all in one part, but I think I'm going to split it, just because there's a lot I need to talk about in the next part. And I've been an awful lot of stuff I need to talk about. But anyway, just one more thing I might want to say regarding Wyverns. Speaking of Wyverns, you know, the Pokemon X and Y were just recently revealed. This is probably going to sound strange, you know, and how, you know, what's that have to do with Wyverns, you might say? Well, the legendaries were revealed in the trailer, and on CerebiNet, they recently posted this. Here you'll see presumably the legendary mascot of what I presume to be Y version, Yveltal, which, yeah, this is like, that weird Norse mythology thing, having a Y that's pronounced like an I. Oh, kids are gonna have really serious trouble with that. Anyway, Yveltal says yes, according to CerebiNet's details, this Pokemon, presumably legendary, was announced as part of the reveal of Pokemon X and Y. With its arms when it armed itself in flight, it looks like a letter Y, and may be based on a Wyvern. Oh, sweet Arceus, help us, the Wyverns are invading the Pokemon series. So my worst nightmare now exists in both my favourite series of all time. Oh, damn it. Yes, I'm gonna have to learn how to best brutally kill this thing when these games finally come out in October. Still don't know what type it is, though. Whatever type it is, it's got to have some weakness, and whatever weakness it is, I will find it and abuse it like there is no tomorrow. Damn Wyverns. Anyway, enough about Pokemon and on to more Fire Emblem. And move it over here just so I can get Finn to dance for her. Yeah. Flying. Yeah, just out of range. Making sure to go out of range. I should be ready to hit that save point pretty soon, actually, so... Oh, another reinforcement thief. Yeah, just after I get past this guy. And she's got enough luck to avoid being critted by that, which is very good, because a crit would brutally hurt her. Oh, right then. Yeah, probably want to get rid of this guy too. Yeah, devil weapons in the possession of enemies really hurt. And those thieves, yeah, we're going to catch those before they get to the village, easily. Right then, what we should do is we should hit this... Yep, we should hit the save point now, okay? So, hit the save point, and I will see... Wait a minute. Do I hit the save point, or do I kill the Sword Master first? I was wondering whether I could hit the save point and then attack. Turns out I couldn't, so I'll see you next time.